Okay, I apologize about video one. Something happened between the iPad and Reflector and my computer, and everything just kind of stopped, which is very weird. Let's go back. Now we got a longer video that we can talk about. So again, if we're looking at this, let's feed some things. Well, there's some pizza. I don't think Parker's going to mind if I feed her some pizza. Now, what I want to do is I want to pop down in here to the stomach, and I want to take a look at something. Because these are some really cool things. Again, remember how the stomach is lined with all of this smooth muscle, and it's constantly churning and moving the food around, as you can kind of see inside of here, how the food comes in. Now, notice this muscle here. This muscle here, if you watch when food comes down, it allows food in, but food has a really hard time coming back out. And you want that. You don't want your food coming back out. However, there are some times that this muscle can be overridden. Let's just put it that way. You can override the muscle. And so let's take a look at what would happen in an instance like that as the Tiny Bop app slowly loads for me. So Parker's, she's at her friend's house. They're having a huge party or something, and so she's drinking sodas. So Parker's drinking lots of soda, and you can see that liquid goes into the stomach. She's pretty happy right now. She loves soda. She says, hey, I'll take a cookie or two. Absolutely. So she eats a cookie. And then she starts to eat a little bit too much. And she says, I'll eat this piece of pizza. Even though my stomach is kind of full and it doesn't feel very good, I'm just going to keep eating. And we just heard her burp. That's pretty funny. And she said, well, it's a birthday party. Let me eat some birthday cake. Luckily, she did not eat the candle, if you noticed there. She walked into the kitchen. She realizes, hey, they're eating, like, sandwiches. Now, do you see how food can come back up? It's not fun to throw up. But if you notice, this little flap here can, at times, let food back out if there's too much in the stomach or it's upsetting you. Now, notice the more food we eat, the more acid and stuff we have in our stomach. And that's important. Now, notice this bubble here. What does that do? If you have bubbles of gas in your stomach and they come up, you're going to burp. And that's a very natural thing to have happen. Now, all of this food, you'll see, moves from the stomach. Hopefully, you can remember where that goes. But before we do that, let's have her burp one more time. All right, so now we're going to move into, that's right, the small intestine. Now, in the small intestine, you can see all these bits of food are brushing up against these tiny little hairs, and that's moving the food through the digestive system, through the small intestine, and this is where you're going to get out all of your nutrients. The nutrients is going to come out from this and go into your body. Because it's going to go into the bloodstream. Now, it's very important that you have this happen in the small intestine. The small intestine's main role is to get out all of those nutrients. If you're not breaking down the food into proteins, into vitamins, into minerals that your body can use, you're going to be in big trouble. So another thing that we need to take a look at is where it goes after this. So we've taken the whole trip. If we think about it, we've watched food go on its trip, maybe, as the Tiny Bop app slowly loads for me. Here we go. Now, we've watched food go from the mouth, through the esophagus, into the stomach. From the stomach, the food in here eventually gets broken down. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Eventually gets broken down, and that's going to go, as you can see, the stomach empties out into the small intestine. Now, the small intestine is going to move all of this food through it, and it's going to move it out of the small intestine because it's getting rid of all of the nutrients, and there's pretty much just waste left over. And we're going to move into the large intestine. Now, you'll notice the large intestine. Watch this pulse of movement come down from the large intestine. Do you see that movement? That's very similar to the same movement that you saw with the esophagus. Notice, do you see all the little bit of water that's getting squeezed out of the food here? You'll see the water kind of splashing. Remember, the large intestine removes water from the waste that's left over after we've eaten our food. Now, all of this moves its way down. Sometimes during this process, gases are formed, and it can't make its way to the top, so it only has one way to go. Out the other end, that's right. Now, when your large intestine has broken down all of the food and the waste is built up, it makes its way to the very end, and that's when we say, I've got to go. And you have emptied your large intestine of the food that you've broken down, and it would start a whole process over again. Right? So we've seen food go from the mouth, getting broken down by saliva in the teeth and the tongue, through the esophagus, down to the stomach, from the stomach to the small intestine, from the small intestine to the large intestine, and then we get rid of the waste. So luckily we had a little bit extra time to kind of go through all of this stuff and look at how the digestive system really works.